The village of Cape Gray clung to the Atlantic coast like a handful of weathered stones. Every evening, 12-year-old Noah Carter climbed 147 steps to the top of the local lighthouse, carrying a lantern and a box of matches. He did this every night for 5 years, not for money, but because of a promise. His father, Captain Samuel Carter, had disappeared into a storm years earlier, telling Noah to keep the light burning so he could always find his way home. While other children spent their afternoons playing on the docks, Noah lived in a cycle of polishing glass and staring at the horizon. He remained fixed in the moment his father sailed away, waiting for a ship that never returned. The lighthouse had become a monument to that grief, a physical anchor that kept the boy tied to the memory of a ghost. Everything changed when a sudden winter storm drove a merchant ship onto the rocks. Trapped in a heavy fog, the crew was unable to see the harbor entrance. The town's rescue efforts stalled immediately because the lighthouse's great brass gear was frozen completely solid. Without the turning beam to guide them, the rescue boats couldn't safely leave the harbor. Noah fought his way up the icy tower stairs. He remembered a trick his father used during winter voyages and poured every drop of whale oil he had onto the frozen metal to keep the lubricant liquid in the sub-zero air. The mechanism groaned and began to turn. The brilliant beams swept across the waves, allowing the fishermen to launch their boats and pull 38 passengers from the wreck. Because Noah had spent years caring for every bolt and gear, he was the only person in Cape Gray who knew how to force the machine back to life. His dedication to the past had inadvertently saved the town's present. The village celebrated Noah as a hero, but the boy stayed distant. The medals and the praise didn't change the fact that his eyes were still fixed on the empty sea. Saving the merchant ship hadn't resolved his own crisis. He was still waiting, convinced that if he just kept the light bright enough, his father might finally appear in the distance. Months later, while cleaning a storage area beneath the tower, Noah found a loose stone hidden behind some dusty barrels. Behind it sat a rusted metal box that had been hidden for years. Inside were the remnants of his father's career, maps, charts, and a discovery that would finally explain the true purpose of the light Noah had been tending. At the bottom of the box lay a sealed envelope. It was addressed to Noah in his father's handwriting, written before that final, fateful voyage. The letter urged Noah to stop waiting for a return that might never happen. Samuel wrote that he wanted his son to grow into a man who looked forward, telling him to live, to laugh, and to love his mother. He explained that lighthouses don't exist to wait for ships that are lost forever. They exist to guide the people who are still coming home. The paper slipped from Noah's fingers. He cried for the first time in 5 years, finally accepting that his father's last wish wasn't for him to keep a vigil, but for him to start living. A lighthouse beam has a dual nature. It projects into the sea, but also illuminates the village harbor. That evening, Noah turned toward the town's glowing windows. He realized the lantern was a shield for the community, protecting his neighbors from his father's fate. The lighthouse had transitioned into a guardian for the future, fueled by the memory of the past. Over the next 50 years, Noah became the official keeper of Cape Gray. He guided generations of sailors through the era of oil lanterns and into the age of electric beams and modern radio. At 83, he climbed those steps one last time. He was found the next morning sitting peacefully by the window, holding his father's compass, while the light he tended for a lifetime continued to burn above him. The bronze plaque the village placed at the tower base honors Noah Carter as a son who kept his promise, and a keeper whose steady light guided countless strangers safely home. Noah's story reminds us that we don't honor the lost by standing still. We honor them by taking the light they left behind and using it to guide others forward.